Hello, my friend, and welcome to the Unapologetic Entrepreneur Podcast. I am so grateful that you are here today and so excited to bring you a bonus episode in this series because we are going 1 week longer. So when we decided to do this series, it was for the month of July in 2024 to keep you focused on one project, on one goal, and turn that idea into a reality over the course of a month. But as I was going through, there was one thing that I was like, if I don't include this, no one's going to do it, and we have to do it. So we're actually creeping in to August, so we're on week 6 in this. And this series is all about taking an idea, turning it into a reality, and staying focused. And so today we're talking about celebrating all of the wins that have come along the way in the last few weeks for you, and learning the lessons along the way. Reflecting on the lessons learned is so important, and it's something that so many people, including myself, will forget to do if we don't take time to do this. So this is a very critical piece, and I had to add it in there. And so this series, like I said, is all about taking an idea, a goal, and turning it into reality. So part 1 was setting the goal. And that was so important. If you don't set the goal, what in the world are you focused on, right? So you have to really stay focused. And that was part 1 of this series. Part 2 was creating a realistic project plan. And from there, the remainder of the weeks was all implementation. But I was giving you some pep talks along the way. And this is another one of those. And it's all about celebrating. But one of the pep talks was about how to get back on track. So that was part 3, how to get back on track when life throws you a curveball. Part 4 was all about lack of motivation. What do you do when you don't feel motivated? And part 5 was all about prioritization and time management. Tons of tools in there. And I introduced you to a great expert that I want you to follow because she has way more time, tools, and all of that, way more than me. So you'll want to make sure to catch up with her. But today we're talking about celebrating your progress, celebrating your wins, and reflecting on the lessons learned. So let's dive in. This is the Unapologetic Entrepreneur Podcast, a podcast for passionate entrepreneurs just like yourself who are looking to create a profitable and productive business that you are proud of. On this show, we explore entrepreneurship success stories, but not just the highlights. We get into the nitty-gritty details so that you know more about the path traveled to achieve that success. See, I'm on a mission to help you never feel like a failure again when it comes to achieving your goals. And so much of that is setting realistic expectations of the effort needed, goals that align with the season of your life, and ensuring that you have the accountability in place that you need. So on this podcast, you can expect real conversations, practical tips, and lots of encouragement along the way so that you have everything you need to follow through and actually achieve your definition of success. So if you're ready to go from unsure to unapologetic, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. So if you're anything like me, chances are you move on from one project or one goal right on to the next because you're excited to tackle something else. But we have to pause. I always have to remind myself to do this. And if you don't need the reminder, please know that that is a gift that you have been given that I was not given, and celebrate that because that is something that is wonderful that you don't forget to do. But for me, after each of my quarters, after each of the goals that I'm chasing and the things that I'm doing, every project, every launch, every whatever it is, there is always a step in the process of celebrating progress and learning from all of the lessons that were included in that whole process. And it's really a time to pause. And I have to put it on my calendar or I will not do it because I am terrible at this part, the celebrating and the learning. I'm actually better at the learning than the celebrating, but I have to remember to celebrate the progress along the way. So this is your reminder. If you need it, here's what I need you to do. Remember that project plan that we put together? At the end of that project plan, I need you to add one more thing, and it's to do a debrief with yourself about what lessons you learned and what progress you made, no matter if you hit the goal or not, especially if you didn't hit the goal, because it's easier to celebrate and be like, yeah, I did that. That's awesome. But we really have to dig in when we don't hit it, and we have to say, what progress did I make? Because that's so important to celebrate, and you learn more lessons that way. So we're going to dive into this, and I'm going to show you the exact questions I asked myself. And if you want a template for this, it's not super complicated, but sometimes it's just easier to have someone give you something, and I totally understand. And so I have put together a goals toolkit. It's on my website. You can purchase it. And because you're a podcast listener, you get 20% off if you use the code podcast. So just go to amandamckinney.com/goal toolkit and use that code podcast to save 20%. So here are the questions to reflect after a project, after a goal, whatever it is for you. It can be a million different things, but you really want to ask yourself some very specific questions so that you understand. Number one, what went well during this process? What helped me make progress and or reach my goal? So really what you want to do in this process is think about what went well, what helped you, what amplified your results. Think about anything and everything that helped you. Was it helpful for you to dedicate time every single Monday morning? Was it helpful for you to put your phone on airplane mode for 30 minutes when you knocked that project out every day, or whatever it is? What was helpful? Note it, because you will forget. I promise you will. You're doing a million things in your life. You're going to forget what helped. You need to document what helped you. What went well? What do you want to repeat? What is everything that worked? Those are typically top of mind pretty quickly. The things we remember for a long time is what didn't go well, but we need to document that too. So the next question is, what didn't go well during the process? What hindered me from making progress or reaching my goal? Now, this is not a permission to be a jerk to yourself. No, not permission at all. Here's what we have to identify. Look at what went well and how much progress you made. Let's celebrate that and remember that. Every step is worth celebrating. If you got 5% closer to your goal, I want you to celebrate the heck out of that 5%, because you are 5% closer to your goal than you were 5 weeks ago, or whatever it is. I want you to celebrate. But I also want you to learn what hindered you, because chances are there are some repeat offenders in this place that you can look out for, and you can really put some things in place to help yourself for future success if you understand what hinders you. Just like understanding, oh, if I put my phone on airplane mode for 30 minutes, I can actually stay focused. This is amazing, right? That's helpful. On the other side, it's, oh, if my phone is sitting next to me and I have notifications going on, I will check it and not be productive. There we go, right? It's simply knowing. It's just a fact that you're figuring out. It's not trying to be a jerk to yourself. It's simply understanding. And maybe, just maybe, you overcommitted, right? Because that's what happens a lot for people. And it's, oh, I stuffed my calendar with too many things. It's not about being a jerk to yourself. It's just recognizing what hindered you from making that progress. What lessons can you learn from this process? And so I want you to ask those two questions and spend some time. And you don't have to do this for all day or anything. Like, give yourself 15, 20 minutes on each of these and just write anything down that you can. It doesn't have to be a perfect essay or anything. Just write it down. This is just for you. This is for you to start understanding more about yourself so that you can make better decisions as you move forward. Because the more you know about how you work, the better you can work. So just understanding what helped you and what hindered you is going to be very, very helpful. Now I want to help you really identify those lessons so that you can take them forward with you. Now, this is a little harder to do with generalization. This is where working with someone like myself is very helpful. And I'm going to do the best I can to give you the keys to the castle here, but sometimes you need someone else to help you understand. And talking through this is very, very helpful. I would love to work with you, of course. However, I know that that's not the case for everyone in terms of like, maybe you can't spend the time with me. Maybe you can't afford my services right now. That's fine. Find someone that can reflect with you on those questions and help you identify some trends, because that's really what you're looking for. So once you've done this a few times, I want you to see what keeps coming up for me. What is getting in the way? The biggest one I see. Now, I work with a ton of clients, and I've recently created a tech product. If you've heard the podcast, I've talked about this just a little bit. It is not open right now, depending on when you're listening to this, but maybe it will be. Just go to my website. You'll see all the details. But working with people, in the hundreds, thousands of people, like I'm working with a lot of people over all these years, there's one thing that's very, very clear that happens a lot. So I'm going to put this one as the example, and it's overcommitment. We overcommit ourselves with things we've put on our calendar, with commitments we've made to other people, with the time that we think that we have. We overcommit ourselves too often. Like, this is the number one hindrance. This is the number one barrier for people. Chances are you're probably doing this. I want you to understand why that's happening in terms of what specifically. Are you putting too many coffee dates on your calendar? Are you overcommitting in terms of saying yes to projects that you don't have the capacity to finish? And so you're constantly missing deadlines. What is it that's making you do it? And then you can back into it and say, how can I learn from this and not do it as I go forward? It's not going to be perfect, but you want to ask yourself how you can learn from it. And so if that is hard for you to do alone, because chances are it is, because that's really hard to admit to yourself, and it's even harder to be like, how am I going to fix this? Find someone to help you with this process. The other thing on the other side is that's the barrier that tends to really be a barrier for people. Like, that's the number one barrier I see. The number one amplifier I see after working with so many people is scheduling specific time on their calendar. And very much so, it is not more time. It is constrained time. Time and time again, I'll hear this inside the tool that I have, inside a coaching call, and they'll say, Amanda, it's amazing. I only gave myself 15 minutes and I actually did it. And it's incredible. It's all about getting specific about the time in which you're going to do it. So if you're working with me, you know I ask this question, when are you going to do that? Or if I see too many things on your list, I'm like, you've got a lot on your list. Is it possible for you to get this done? Are you overcommitting yourself? Because it's really hard to catch it for yourself. So I try and do that as much as I can. But these are the things. Specific scheduled time to work towards your goal is very, very helpful for most people. And it helps that problem of overcommitting because you know what time you actually have. So like I said, this is what I work with clients on all the time. I work with one-on-one in groups. There's lots of different options. If you're curious about that, you can always go to my website, amandamckinney.com/coaching, and see what options are available. I change my offerings depending on the season. I often do quarterly opens of group options. One-on-ones are limited, and there's different variations. So go to the website and see what's currently available. However, you can also email support@amandamckinney.com and ask for what you're looking for. We might be able to give you some free resources or offer you some availability on my calendar. But that is something that I love to work with people on because this is the thing that you need to do. Now, I want you to do this after each and every project and every goal that you're working on. I want you to reflect on the wins that you've had, the progress you made. I want you to celebrate it. Please, please, please celebrate all progress. 1%, 5%, 75%. I don't care what percent it is. Celebrate it and learn the lessons. Because if you can dig in and you can learn lessons, you are set up for success in big, big ways. But if you need help, of course, you can have the support through a coach like myself or whomever is a best fit for you. But the most important thing that you can do is to schedule time on your calendar and reflect over these last few weeks. So that needs to be part of your project plan always. Any project plan that you ever put together, I want the last thing to be debrief with yourself, with a coach, with a biz bestie, with someone, even just yourself, just to reflect on the wins and understand the lessons. And if you're looking for templates for this and more support, I also put together the goals toolkit. And as a podcast listener, you save 20%. So go to amandamckinney.com/goal toolkit and use the code podcast to save 20%. But until next time, my friend, I want you to give yourself lots of permission to celebrate any and all progress you have made, especially if you have stayed focused on one goal for the past 6 weeks. That's a huge win, and I really want you to take this and use this in a million different ways in your business and in your life so that you can achieve the goals of your dreams. So do that and give yourself lots of grace along the way. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you found it helpful or inspiring, be sure to share it with someone else who could use it too. Sharing is caring, but it's also a huge boost to your accountability. Sharing this message and then talking about it will ensure that you actually take the action that was mentioned in this episode. Hello, accountability. There's nothing better than the feeling of actually following through, and I want that for you. So screenshot it, share it, and if you share it on Instagram, be sure to tag me at @TheAmandaMcKinney too. Until next time.